This is kind of a magical space too. We've got an audience. There's interesting stuff around forests.
Yeah.
And how the trees connect to each other.
Yes, and it's all being measured scientifically.
That part of it which can be.
Yes.
The part which can't be is where the magic is. We tend to often miss that part of it. It's the same with human beings, oh yeah, they got cancer. Is that what's going on? Does a person have cancer? Or is cancer not really what's going on?
How do you mean?
The question is ill health an illusion? And that's a very controversial statement I've just made. What is an illusion? An illusion isn't that it's not there. An illusion is that we're misinterpreting what we're seeing. So when you see a mirage, it's not that the mirage isn't there, it's just that you're misunderstanding what's there. When I say that disease is an illusion, I don't mean that it's not there.
Yeah.
I mean that we're misinterpreting what's going on.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to get into the new science, quantum science. Max Planck, who won the Nobel Prize for Physics, in his Nobel Prize speech, he said, I've been examining matter all my life, and I can tell you one thing, there's no such thing as matter. There's only energy information.
Yeah.
Matter is energy information slowed down to the point at which it becomes visible. So it's like water becoming ice.
Yeah.
It becomes ice when the molecules slow down and become solid. So a human being is not a matter being. Human being is a matter, energy, information, quantum being. And body, emotions, mind, spirit, consciousness being.
So are you saying in a way that Max Planck was pointing to the term matter as being an illusion? And that it's a misinterpretation of what's actually going on?
Yes.
And so to say, here's a person who has cancer. I've always had a problem with the idea of having cancer. It's like it's a possession I've gone and acquired, and it's now mine. That's not how I feel when I'm ill. I just feel ill.
The whole point is that the disease is an illusion because it's not what you think it is.
It's not what's really going on.
It's actually a matter, energy, informational problem.
And is it even a problem?
Well, that's another question, because my definition of ill health is that ill health is the call of health for help.
The call of health for help.
Yes. Health doesn't make a noise. When it starts to make a noise, it's asking for help.
That's my car.
Exactly the same. So if you take the car model, when the car breaks down and you only fix the part that's broken and you don't do a tune-up and you don't speak to the driver, that's bad mechanics. So a car doesn't break down unless it's totally out of tune and you're not feeding it right and you're not driving it properly, it'll break down.
Yeah.
The breakdown, that's not the problem in a way. The problem is you haven't done a tune-up and you're not using the right petrol, you're not driving properly.
Yeah.
So it's a much bigger story. So it's exactly the same with disease. Disease is what I call an endpoint. And we know that cancer takes 20 years to develop. But what's happening in that space of that 20 years before any objective feature arises? It's not measurable because matter is the endpoint. Matter is energy, information slowed down. Well, ill health, you could say, is the slowing down more of energy information. So as you're getting older, things are slowing down, and that's why old people tend to get more ill than young people. Things are slowing down. Energy information is slowing down.
Yeah.
Chemistry is much too slow to coordinate all the processes that are happening. Chemistry moves at centimeters a second.
Yeah.
Light moves at 300,000 kilometers a second. There's no way that chemistry can be in control. So matter is not where the controls are. Where are the controls?
Which is where it gets interesting to think about how our mind and our heart might be actually affecting the material world. I'm interested in the 20 years that it takes for a cancer to materialize. Energy and information is in a process that's invisible until it becomes material. Then you talk about how light and thought move so much faster than chemistry, and that our minds can possibly be influencing what's going on in the system long before it materializes.
I've got a book on my desk called Mind Over Matter. It's written by 20 physicists, quantum physicists, not medical doctors. Medical doctors haven't even gone there yet. Quantum science has gone to the fact that the mere act of observing changes what you observe.
Yes.
I mean, that's an astonishing statement.
is,
That's a statement of absolute creativity.
Yeah.
So that's why the mind-body stuff is so important. Quantum science is already far ahead.
Yeah.
It talks about complexity. Complexity means that things are so damn complex that we can never understand it. And that's why weather prediction, despite all the satellites up there, is still called a prediction.
Yeah.
The more experience you have, the better your guessing is going to be. Question then is, what is medicine up to here? Because the moment you step outside the objective field, you're getting into the subjective,
Yeah.
the immeasurable.
Mm.
And then we run into problems. And so medical science steps back from that into the objective world. And so medicine is driven by chemistry and biochemistry.
Yes.
Because that's the easy part of it. So they've managed to disempower the whole concept of subjectivity, which means that the patient is disempowered. Because the patient is full of feelings and knowings and full of subjectivity. But he's told that we're not interested in that part of you, we're interested in the body, where the disease is, because that's what we need to deal with.
And of course, what the attraction to the patient of the doctor who has that mindset is the possibility of certainty. Give me certainty that this thing can go away, or that I've got 6 months to live, whatever certainty you're offering me at the moment. That is the appeal, isn't it?
That's an illusion of certainty because we're dealing with such complexity.
Yeah.
We're dealing with such a lot of subjectivity. The question is, where are the controls? Well, the controls are not in the brain. The brain's just like the computer
Yes.
itself. That's all it is. It's waiting to be operated. There has to be an operator. Or what you're going to call the operator, I'm calling it the mind.
But you can't find it.
Nobody's found the mind. If I had to ask you, are you a conscious being? You'd say, you say yes.
Yeah.
Where is the consciousness? You're going to say, nobody knows. Well, what we know is a very small part of what's really going on.
Yeah.
For me, it's a question of, if you want to find something out, you've got to accept the possibility that it's there. And that's why people are trying to measure consciousness. If we're trying to understand the nature of ill health, then we need to start to recognize that the closer we get to where the controls are, the better we are able to heal.
Yes.
Otherwise, we end up with symptomatic medicine. We're dealing with parts only, and the whole concept of parts is a problematic aspect of medicine for me. The idea that the human being is nothing more than a very, very sophisticated machine, and now we got AI, and AI is going to be even more intelligent than we are, because it's got all this information. So that concept of a human being made up of parts and machine-like is not the way I understand it functioning, because human beings are not a machine made of parts. Human beings are a slowing system. The best metaphor I have of a human being is of a whirlpool in water. You can't take the whirlpool out of the water. It's got water molecules coming in and going out, and yet it remains in form. So human beings, for me, are something like a whirlpool in the sea of consciousness. So we dynamic, we creative, we don't remain the same. Quantum science has taken the matter object, because the idea was that if we could find the basic building blocks of the human body, we'd be able to know everything. So what they did, started to break matter down into bits and pieces, they came to atoms.
Yeah.
And then they broke atoms and they found particles. And particles are not matter. Particles are energy. Quantum science has said, hang on, we're dealing not with matter, we're dealing with energy information. Modern medicine is stuck on the matter, and on top of that, the machine model. The whole concept of specialization is based on the idea that we are machines.
Yeah.
The more integrated medicine concept is that we are a system functioning as one whole piece. Every cell knows what every other cell is doing because it's one field. There aren't parts to the body.